And I think we just went live. We've got the thumbs up. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. It's great to see you all here. It's great to be with you. I am very pleased and very proud to stand before you today and offer up the State of the City address. But before I do, I wanted to begin with gratitude. This, as mayor, this is the first of these that I've had the opportunity to give, and I wanted to express my gratitude for you allowing me the privilege of being your mayor. And I know that the commission would echo the thanks and the gratitude that we have to you for the privilege that it is to serve in this way, to be those that the public has elected to be your representatives, be your policymakers and your vision setters. And so I wanted to begin with gratitude today. Thank you for this privilege. I also wanted to mention that a State of the City address by nature lends itself to looking back. And so we're going to do some looking back, and you're going to hear about successes and accomplishments of your city and your city departments over the year that was 2020, and we'll talk about some of the things up until this point this year. And I wanted you to know that I hope you hear today that your city, and it is your city government, your city as an organization is performing really, really well and is in a great position and going in a wonderful direction. And I would like the public to know that your community is in a good place and getting better and going in a good direction. So I hope you hear those things today. And while a State of the City looks back, I want you to know that your mayor and your commissioners are looking forward. We're looking forward and in a shared vision for how great Clovis can be in the future. And I know that others share this sentiment with me, but I have a feeling that we are on the cusp of a period of growth and prosperity like maybe Clovis has never seen before. And so I hope you hear some of that today. So we'll get into the State of the City address, and I'll begin with the city's mission statement. The City of Clovis mission statement. It is the mission of the Clovis city government to provide quality municipal services in the best, most effective, most economical manner, to operate in a spirit of cooperation and collaboration with all people, and in every endeavor to expect every employee of the city to perform to the highest of their capacity, and to provide leadership and resources in a community-based program of economic development, and to consider every issue on the basis that Clovis is a community for family. 2020 was a challenging year for the city of Clovis as it adjusted to the CDC and public health orders from the state of New Mexico related to COVID-19. In fact, it was a year like none we have ever seen before in our lifetime. And I'm grateful to the many people who rose to meet the challenges we were faced with. Throughout the changes and closures in our city, employees of the city continued to perform their work in serving the residents of our community with outstanding professionalism. They adjusted their work environments and schedules to accommodate the needs of our community while at the same time applying for grants to assist local businesses negatively impacted by closures. 2020 will be remembered not only for the negative effect that the pandemic had on our daily lives and in our businesses and every area of life, but 2020 will also be remembered for the innovative ways in which our city handled this state of emergency. As we continue our efforts as a city and as a community, we can be proud of the way that we've worked together to see to the needs of the most vulnerable in our community. We can also be proud of the business models that were developed, and we can be proud of our ability to keep people working and moving forward. And we can certainly be proud of the heroics of our medical and first responders And we're proud of our essential workers who plowed through difficult days. And so much more. This year truly showcased our resiliency and our compassion. I'd particularly like to thank the Clovis City Commission for their leadership, their dedication to service, and commitment to ensuring that the citizens and businesses in our community receive the services that they needed during the past year. They have done a tremendous work over the past year in so many areas, including supporting state changes to improve our retail portfolio, providing $4.2 million in funding assistance through state grants, not only for local businesses, but also for housing, childcare, and utilities for those impacted by COVID-19. And our City Commission has done a great job in approving position, classification review, employee benefits, and compensation plan study. Thank you, City Commissioners. Appreciate you. So now we will transition a bit and start to talk about the different areas and departments of the city. First, we'll talk about infrastructure and water. In March 2020, the City of Clovis completed the $6.4 million construction on 7th Street between Norris and Maple Street. The work included road widening, drainage, sidewalks, bike paths, and ADA improvements. The City of Clovis is now seeking funding for the final phase of this project between Maple and Main Street. In September 2020, the city received over $146,000 from the state of New Mexico for intersection improvements at 7th and Thornton. This project is currently out to bid with construction scheduled to begin this summer 2021. The city has contracted with HDR Engineering to design drainage improvements on Llano Estacado Boulevard between Norris and Humphrey Road. This includes Woodlark Road and Kearney in the Rain Tree subdivision. And this is to alleviate flooding in that area. Plans are at 95% completion, and the project has an estimated funding cost of $3 million. Also, in anticipation for BNSF adding a third main line to their system, the city relocated sanitary sewer lines in the Norris Street area to accommodate BNSF's needs. In September 2020, the city approved Molson Corbin engineers to conduct a hydraulic modeling study and map revision for submittal to FEMA. The $355,000 project is being completed with state capital outlay funding and city drainage funding and will be completed in the fourth quarter 2021. In October 2020, the city approved funding for the construction of embankment improvements at Sorgen Playa, following the New Mexico Department of Transportation's project, which improved guardrails along Llano Estacado. The construction for this project has already been completed. To improve response time and safety, emergency preemptive equipment has been installed at almost all city traffic intersections, and police and fire are starting to install units in their vehicles, which has a cost of about $20,000 per year. 2020 paving projects included Thornton Street from Grand to 7th, Fred Dartery Avenue from Norris to Morse Street, and Peacock Place from Fred Dartery Avenue to 14th Street at a total cost of just over $214,000. Clovis Regional Solid Waste Facility is in the process of closing cells 1 through 4 and utilizing cell 5 now. And it's estimated that we'll use cell 5 for up to 25 years. 78.268 tons of trash were taken into the facility in 2020. Throughout 2020, Molson Corbin engineers advanced the design of improvements to Martin Luther King Boulevard between 7th and 21st Streets. This design is now at 95%. The $436,000 in work was funded with capital outlay funding and city drainage funds. We'll shift gears a little bit now and talk about water projects. You And the public should know that the city of Clovis is committed to addressing and supporting our community's water needs now and in the future. And I would add that EPCOR Water is a big part of that as our utility provider. And in fact, tomorrow evening, EPCOR will be sharing the recently updated 40-year plan for providing water to our community. Our water projects include the effluent reuse system. Phase 1 was completed in 2020 and included construction of approximately 10,000 linear feet of 18-inch diameter reuse transmission pipeline, construction of approximately 11,000 linear feet of 3-inch to 12-inch diameter reuse distribution pipeline, and 5 connections to the transmission line, and approximately 250 linear feet of jack and bores. It provided service to City Park, Bell Park, Marshall Middle School, Green Acres Park, Robbie Pierce Complex, and James Bickley Elementary School at a cost of just over $2.5 million to construct. Phase D of the effluent reuse system is currently under construction and includes construction of approximately 5,840 linear feet of 18-inch diameter and 400 linear feet of 16-inch reuse transmission pipeline and a 1 million gallon composite elevated storage tank. That storage tank also involved earthwork, foundation, piping, disinfection and piping equipment, RTU, and electrical. Construction of approximately 7,500 linear feet of reuse distribution pipeline, 4 connections to the transmission line. This phase cost $4,341,000. Completion of Phase 1D is scheduled for this month, May 2021. Keeping with water, shifting gears a bit, the City of Clovis continues to support the work of the Eastern New Mexico Water Utility Authority in the construction of the Ute Pipeline project. This project will provide a future renewable water source for Clovis area residents. As your mayor, I chair the Water Authority. In 2020, construction of Finished Water 2 was completed. Finished Water 2 was the project which consisted of 7.5 miles of pipeline beginning northwest of Cannon Air Force Base and connecting Cannon Air Force Base to the Clovis Community Water System. The cost of construction and engineering project management on Finished Water 2 was $27,274,723. In 2020, $9.6 million was made available in funding from the State of New Mexico towards Phase Finished Water 3A of the Ute Pipeline project for the construction of an 11.5 mile portion of pipeline beginning northwest of Cannon Air Force Base and extending south towards Portales. Construction is scheduled to begin on that this summer, July 2021, at a total cost of $21,212,000. Finished Water 3B, which is the second phase of this pipeline, which is extending south to Portales, will connect the Portales system and begin shortly after construction of Finished Water 3A at a cost of $17 million. The United States Bureau of Reclamation has provided $27,891,000 toward the construction of Finished Water 3. In May 2020, the amendment to the Eastern New Mexico Water Utility Authority statute, which was House Bill 76, became effective, allowing member communities of Curry County, Melrose, and Grady to withdraw from the authority. The regional partner members of the authority are now us, the City of Clovis, Portales, Texaco, and Elida. In July 2020, the authority began work on 90% design of Finished Water 1, which will connect Finished Water 2, as I previously stated, is northwest of Cannon Air Force Base, but Finished Water 1 will travel north to the proposed water treatment facility. This involves 15.5 miles of transmission pipeline and will be shovel-ready November 2021. In August 2020, the authority began the work on the Texaco Lateral alignment study to identify and determine the best pipeline alternative to the member community of Texaco. In July 2020, the renewal process began on the contract between New Mexico Interstate Stream Commission and the Ute Reservoir Water Commission. This renewal includes water allocations to the Ute Reservoir Water Commission that includes the authority members. The total authority member allocation from the reservoir is 16,415 acre feet. And the contract is for a term of 10 years and was approved and signed by representatives of these agencies in Quay County in December of 2020. Now let's talk about city services. City of Clovis's public service departments continue to provide excellent service to our community. Under support services, the City of Clovis Finance Department is seeking to improve its interaction with the public through its utility billing processes. For the last year and a half, the city has begun the implementation of the Tyler Munis suite of modules with the assistance of information technology. Once fully implemented, the new system will provide citizens and title companies with access to their billing information. In March 2020, the City Commission approved a revised personnel policy manual. In August of 2020, the City Commission approved the position classification study review. In December of 2020, Cynthia Wentworth joined the city team as its Human Resources Director. We'll shift gears and talk about the Clovis Police Department. The Clovis Police Department continues to serve our community well in spite of difficult times and continued challenges. During 2020, the Clovis Police Department answered 33,590 calls for service compared to just under that, 33,343 in 2019. The department did see a decrease in all areas of service within the community, and much of this can be attributed to the pandemic. Clovis Police Department Dispatch Center, which takes emergency and non-emergency requests for law enforcement, fire, and EMS, generated 51,061 calls for service in 2020. That was an increase of 611 calls over the previous year. The police department updated in-car computer systems to assist officers in completing their daily operations. They replaced 25 computers, moving them from the Panasonic G1 to the Panasonic CF33 systems. The statistics for the department are showing decreases in criminal activity. There was an overall drop in the index of crimes by 26% in 2020, and much of this could be due to the pandemic. With recruiting and retention challenges that the department has been facing, personnel have done an outstanding job of performing their duties and should be applauded. 2 long-serving officers with the department retired in 2020. Detective Dale Rice, after 23 years of continuous service, and Master Police Officer Russell Gould with almost 24 years of service. Both of these officers also were United States Air Force retirees with 20 years of service each to our country. With over 43 years of combined dedicated service by both of these gentlemen, they committed their lives to service, and we wish them all the best in their next adventures. The police department in 2020 averaged 11 open positions for police officers. Pardon me. Animal control, which falls under the purview of the police department, in 2020 responded to 4,074 calls for service. The shelter took in 1,702 animals. 237 were adopted, 198 were reclaimed, and unfortunately 602 were euthanized. 73 were protective custody release, and 592 were rescued. 832 pet licenses were issued in 2020. The city of Clovis is continuing to seek ways to reduce the number of animals coming into the shelter and is working with the Humane Society and other rescue groups to adopt rescue animals. The fire department. In 2020, the Clovis Fire Department adjusted their protocols to accommodate the changing CDC and public health orders regarding COVID-19 and assisting and transporting COVID-19 positive patients. Thanks to the implementation of the EMS Division pilot program, the department was able to adequately staff ambulances for the influx of COVID possible patients. The Clovis Fire Department has 7 fire stations in service and a total of 85 personnel. In 2020, the department responded to a total of 10,462 calls for service, including 606 fire calls, which was an increase of nearly 14% over 2019. Throughout the year, the department continued to provide the best and most effective emergency services to the community. Their personnel are provided excellent equipment to perform their job, as well as outstanding training and advancement opportunities. The City of Clovis was pleased when the Clovis Fire Department's Insurance Services Office rating moved from Class 3 to Class 2 in 2018. ISO creates ratings for fire departments in their surrounding communities and calculates how well equipped fire departments are to put out fires in their community. Emergency management. Emergency management is a department that got to exercise their years of training during the pandemic and continue to do so. Emergency management department provides support not only to the city of Clovis but also Curry County. In 2020, the department was involved in the nationwide COVID-19 response and became the focal point for obtaining critical personal protective equipment for all essential businesses that were experiencing supply shortages due to the pandemic. And they provided a lot of PPE. They provided 7,110 critical medical grade N95 masks, 48,840 procedure masks, 3,720 KN95 masks, 22,978 disposable gowns, 54,600 medical grade gloves, and 132 gallons of hand sanitizer, 5,100 face shields, 2,600 cloth masks, which were distributed to various essential providers within the community. Emergency management provided continuous updates from the state and federal partners to assist local leaders in making informed decisions regarding the COVID-19 response. They also assisted Curry County Clerk's Office in ensuring the 2020 general election was conducted in a COVID-safe manner. Emergency response provided the framework for Curry County and the city of Clovis in declaring a public health emergency due to COVID-19. This action assisted in securing state and federal funds that were allocated as a result of the pandemic. The department continued in 2020, expending fiscal year 2019 Department of Homeland Security grant funding for first responders in Curry County and spent more than $144,000 on various equipment purchases and salaries. Funds are focused on emerging national and local threats. In 2020, additional grant funding was secured to update the Curry County Hazard Mitigation Plan. This plan is updated every 5 years to reflect current and emerging hazards in the community and surrounding areas. Our Senior Services Department did a wonderful job in 2020. The Senior Services Department was shut down in March 2020 as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic and has only recently seen a partial reopening. When the center closed as a result of the public health orders, the Senior Services Department faced many challenges, and through perseverance and dedication, they were successful in overcoming those challenges in the ensuing months. Before the pandemic, hundreds of seniors passed through the Senior Center daily. Unable to attend the center, many seniors faced depression and isolation. And the Senior Services implemented ways to engage seniors in a virtual format. Funding was received through CARES Act to purchase electronic equipment to enable the department to continue programming through virtual platforms. This provided the opportunity for the department to interact daily with more seniors through social media and other communication platforms. Department staff assisted Charisma with the distribution of food boxes to approximately 1,000 seniors. During the year, staff at the department dwindled from 5 full-time staff to 2 as employees retired, resigned, or were otherwise reassigned to other departments, leaving the director and 1 events coordinator to oversee programs. I would like to recognize Senior Services for all that they have done in the pandemic to remain connected to our seniors. And I'd also like to specifically recognize Senior Services for taking the lead on making over 600 face coverings with the assistance of staff from CATS as well as staff from the Clovis-Carver Library. These face coverings were distributed to City and Curry County personnel. During the year, funding was also received through the CARES Act to purchase a new vehicle to assist the Curry Resident Senior Meals Association with the delivery of meals to homebound seniors, a very crucial activity that they carried out throughout the year. The department was awarded $750,000 in grant funding through Community Development Block Grant Program and $4.7 million in GO funding through the State of New Mexico Aging Long-Term Services Department for the construction of a new senior center at Hillcrest Park. Construction is due to start later this summer. The Senior Services Department continues to support and assist our growing senior population by adapting and refining activities and services for our community in new and innovative ways. Clovis Area Transit System, also known as CATS. CATS is the only public transportation provider in the community, and the department rose to meet the challenges they faced in continuing services during the pandemic. As with all transit systems across the nation, CATS was hit hard, dropping ridership numbers to 43,000, just over 43,000 trips, and that was down from 67,000 plus in 2019. Their real challenge was finding a way to keep both the public and their drivers safe inside the buses. Staff adapted to comply with health measures and as more was learned about the virus. Some of their successes this past year were receiving CARES Act funding to cover 100% of the administrative and operating costs between March 2020 and present. Through CARES Act funding, CATS was able to purchase a UV sanitation unit, a decontamination unit, and an AI temperature sensor. Maintaining staff work status through work assignments, telecommuting, and funding to cover 100% of salaries was another success. Staff took advantage of all virtual and online training that became available. CATS ordered and received 3 new replacement buses. CATS assisted Senior Services with a successful 100% grant application for a pilot project to transport seniors to medical appointments in Portales and Clovis. CATS assisted Curry Resident Senior Meals Association with the delivery of hot meals to homebound seniors, averaging 100 stops per day. They also assisted with the delivery of food boxes to CATS patrons. In FY 2020, CATS answered 32,410 phone calls, traveled 142,471 miles, logged 11,813 service hours, provided 48,352 trips, and collected $19,736 in fares. Keep in mind, fares were suspended as of April 2020. Let's talk about another fantastic department at the city of Clovis, the Clovis-Carver Public Library. The library continues to face challenges as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, and the library staff worked diligently in their duties at the library in supporting the city as a whole. The facility was physically closed for 2 months between March and May 2020, and during this time, library staff completed a full physical inventory of all collections. They painted cubbies for children's collections. They shifted collections and assisted with deep cleaning measures. Several staff members were reassigned to assist with painting the Roy Walker Recreation Center. Talk about team players. The library formulated and implemented reopening strategies to accommodate the public health order at the facility. Measures included plexiglass, returning books only in outside drop boxes, offering curbside pickup, limiting the number of patrons and the time that those patrons could spend inside the facility, and of course practicing social distancing. Upon reopening, foot traffic at the facility was slow and continued to be throughout the summer months. The summer reading program for children and adults was organized virtually with some success. Many of our usual patrons participated in our virtual program, but their total participation numbers were down compared to previous summers. Throughout the summer months, several large collections, including adult nonfiction, juvenile fiction and nonfiction, and books that had little circulation over the past years, were weeded from the collection and given to the Friends of the Library group for their annual sales. The weeding that took place in the adult nonfiction area allowed the department to move the biography collection out of the room where it was housed to the end of nonfiction, with appropriate signage notifying patrons of this change. The room that contained the biographies became the new Friends of the Library book sale room, and it's accessible to all patrons during business hours. The fall brought back more patrons and a combination of in-person and remote programming. The Adult Services Coordinator restarted the Page Turners Book Club and the Crochet and Stitch groups, while the Children's Services Coordinator conducted once-a-week virtual story time, some of which had accompanying crafts that the children could pick up and complete. Between July 1, 2019 and June 30th, 2020, the public checked out 93,042 books and 10,170 digital materials. Shifting gears a bit to talk about another city department, Parks and Recreation. Like all other departments, Parks and Recreation adapted to the challenges of COVID-19 and the different levels of closures. Park maintenance staff continued their work throughout the 17 local parks, which included the replacement of dead trees with new ones. Fencing was installed around the parks facility at 500 Sycamore as a beautification project. Fencing was also constructed at AYSO soccer fields and at the west side of the zoo. Roy Walker Recreation Center was unfortunately closed from March 2020 throughout the remainder of the year. Undeterred, employees at the center, assisted sometimes by library staff, took advantage of the opportunity to repaint the entire facility, giving the facility a new and more modern look. The facility has recently reopened to the public. The Clovis Municipal Zoo was closed from March throughout most of the year. Zoo staff worked hard to keep the animals entertained due to the absence of the public being able to visit them. Zoo staff worked on beautification projects at the facility. The facility has now reopened to the public. Potter Pool and the Splash Park were closed in 2020. The Aquatic Center, however, was open for lap swim when this activity was permitted by state health orders. Parks and Recreation received capital outlay funding for playground improvements at Dennis Chavez Park, a lighting project at Potter Park, and parking lot improvements at AYSO, Dickinson Field, Guy Leader, and Jim Hill. Agreements were received in December, and construction on these projects, I believe, have begun or will begin shortly. Parks and Recreation held their annual Trek for Trash following COVID-safe practices in October, on a cold day in October. 111 tons of municipal solid waste were received during the cleanup. And earlier this year, we welcomed Russell Hooper as the new Parks and Recreation Director. Shifting a bit, once again, we'll talk about economic development. The city of Clovis was greatly concerned regarding the impact of the public health orders and the impact on local businesses. So staff applied for grant funding from the state and received $4.2 million, which was used to assist area businesses impacted by the pandemic. Funding was also used to assist with rental or mortgage expenses, utilities, and childcare for those negatively impacted. City of Clovis was proud to receive those funds and hired the Chamber of Commerce and Eastern Plains Council of Governments to assist with recommendations regarding the dispersal of these funds, and I would like to thank the Chamber and Eastern Plains Council of Governments for their assistance with this work. COVID-19 has taught us much about the strengths and challenges the city of Clovis faces on a daily basis. One lesson we learned was the impact of leakage to Texas, and the impact that has on business here, certainly, but also on the city's gross receipts tax. Under normal circumstances, as you know, travel to Lubbock on a regular basis for shopping and dining is a normal thing. But during lockdown, area residents were unable to travel to Texas, and Clovis saw for the first time the tremendous impact of people shopping Clovis first for their general merchandise items and other items. The Commission's response to this was twofold. Firstly, we looked at ways to support existing retail and incentivize new retail in our area. We hired Retail Strategies, a national retail matchmaker, to assess the gaps in our retail portfolio and to work on the community's behalf to bring those retailers to Clovis in an effort to stem the leakage of Clovis dollars to Texas. Secondly, in working with the New Mexico Municipal League and other economic development groups in the state, we received tremendous support in changing the Local Economic Development Act to allow incentivizing retail as a use of local LEDA funds in communities like ours with populations over 35,000. This work was spearheaded by Senator Woods and Representative Crowder at the state level, and it passed the legislature and becomes law on July 1st this year. In 2020, the City of Clovis renewed its economic development agreement with Clovis Industrial Development Corporation. The city's Economic Incentive Board is about to undertake the collaborative planning efforts to move our economic development program forward as we seek to diversify and strengthen our economic base. In 2020, the City of Clovis also renewed its agreement with Clovis Main Street, the program which provides support for our downtown businesses and encourages downtown economic development. And as always, the City of Clovis has continued to support the mission of Cannon Air Force Base, and more importantly, the men and women of Cannon Air Force Base. And we are very grateful to have Cannon in our community, to share our community with them. And we are especially grateful to the men and women of the Air Force who work tirelessly to protect our liberties and our freedoms. We'll talk about another city department and a city asset, certainly, as the others are, the airport. In 2020, the Clovis Regional Airport was negatively impacted by the effects of COVID-19 closures, and as was the aviation industry as a whole. Denver Air Connections have been providing round-trip service to Denver through an essential air service agreement with the U.S. Department of Transportation. Employment numbers were severely impacted by the inability of people to travel. Despite the challenges, the City of Clovis moved forward with projects at the airport, including construction at the terminal building to accommodate TSA. and TSA will be operating in our airport on June 1st, 2021. Runway 1230 and apron improvements in front of the terminal building were completed in January 2020. Mr. James Harris joined the city as the airport director in November 2020. He and his team are moving forward with programs to upgrade various areas of the airport, including airport ramp and hangar lighting, self-service fuel system, taxiway alpha improvements, precision approach path indicator lighting, and airport equipment building. Building safety. In 2020, building safety permitted a total of 76 family residents, single family residences, that is, 14 multifamily, and 47 additions, 10 new commercial constructions, 16 commercial additions, and 33 alterations. They oversaw the demolition of 15 buildings, and 9 buildings were secured. Planning and zoning processed 1 preliminary plat, 3 replats, and 3 zone changes. In 2020, code enforcement sent out 731 weed and grass letters, 188 public nuisance letters, and tagged 69 vehicles. Recently, the city of Clovis adopted an abandoned building ordinance, which will expedite the city's ability to address abandoned or failing structures in our community. And Darren Roach joined the building safety team as their director in August 2020. Metropolitan redevelopment area. During 2020, the city of Clovis continued its work with consensus planning regarding the preparation of the metropolitan redevelopment areas known as MRAs in areas to the east and west of the downtown area, between the railroad tracks and between Martin Luther King Boulevard to the west and Norris Street to the east. This plan will assist us as we move to improve the entryways, residential, and commercial areas within the MRA. A meeting was held just last evening to review the draft plan and is available for review on the city's website, and I recommend you have a look at it. It is fantastic. I want to talk to you about strategic planning. Once the city began to open and we were able to do so, I called the commission together with city management and department directors to work on strategic planning, to work on our direction as a city for the next 5 years. The areas identified as areas of priority included transportation, infrastructure, safe communities, economic development, and beautification. I want to share that we have undertaken the work of a feasibility study for a mental health facility. But first, I'd like to thank Plains Regional Medical Center for their dedication and care for those impacted by COVID-19 over the past year. Health, in particular mental health, has been an ongoing conversation for the city of Clovis. In 2021, the city of Clovis is partnering with Curry, the counties of DeBaca, Quay, and Roosevelt, as well as the cities of Fort Sumner and Portales, to conduct a feasibility study to ascertain the need for a mental health facility in our area. I wanted to hit on some of the outcomes from the 2020 census. In the 2020 census, the city of Clovis worked with many agencies on the 2020 census to ensure an accurate count, to enable Clovis to obtain federal funding it needs for streets, healthcare, and infrastructure. Following the most recent available data, currently approximately 40,047 people live in 14,919 housing units in Clovis. Our median household income is $44,405. The annual poverty rate is 21.4%, and the current unemployment rate is 5.7, and getting better, I would note. In conclusion, on behalf of the Clovis City Commission, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to the city employees, certainly city management and you department heads, but every city employee across all departments for their dedication and commitment to providing outstanding support to the citizens of Clovis over the past year. Throughout this past year, we've all experienced the demands and uncertainties of an international pandemic. Time and time again, throughout the many twists and turns of the past 12 months, I have been extremely grateful for the resilient, high plains spirit of Clovis's residents, and that spirit continues to shine through. May that spirit of unity, comfort, hospitality, and hope continue to strengthen our efforts as we continue to look forward with hope and joy to the future. Thank you.